we are now into chapter 14 in Forge of Darkness by Stephen Erikson. Deep dive. Um, this is the chapter I was kind of dreading because some really bad events happen in this chapter. It's a lengthy one. It's about 50 pages long, but a lot of the chapter is basically build up to the singular events that happen in the last three scenes in this chapter. Of course, culminating with the blinding of Kataspella. So, brutal. These events, and we're going to go over some of these. I was dreading these events. I was dreading this chapter throughout the whole book. You may have heard me mention it in previous videos, but it's interesting that the events in this chapter, there's two different events that mirrored each other, and I kind of blended those in my memory in the past. So that's interesting how memory works. And they were both similar sexual assault, rape, traumatic events, and so it's interesting how both of those events got blended in my mind into one traumatic event that happened in this book. So the chapter starts off with Krill, one of our favorite hostages, who was the childhood friend of Venezia, of the bride to be for Anaminda's brother there, Anderist, yes. And so he makes an observation about this nest of this mound of ants that has their frenetic activity, as if blind to what is coming. And that kind of is a symbolic of his own blindness to what is coming in this chapter, especially. And so that is interesting because we have that kind of represents the Teist in general, but also Krill's general state of mind. And it's mentioned in this section that civil war is upon us, and this Krill does not believe it. He doesn't believe Urisander's legion would slaughter innocents, that would slaughter deniers. Of course, we all know that did happen, not necessarily that black and white, but it did happen. And then Krill says duty is not always won with ease, as he heads back to the estate. All right. We have let's see here. The Legion's on the rise. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about, like I said, a lot of setup that leads to the end of the chapter. There's a lot of mention of the deniers and them being the scapegoat, basically the cause of all this, even though they're not. And the the manor gets burnt down where Ginia and Rennick live, even though that's an unprotected place. The lady of that house was the one who sent Orphantal away, and Orphantal's not there anymore. And so these these ex legionnaires who are supposedly working in Eurosanta's name, doing evil things, burn that place down after committing atrocities within. Um, and But I think Rennick lives somehow, even though he was stabbed. But he manages to get out. He manages to get out with um, Ginia, who he loves and who is abused by these soldiers and left to die. So the little section with Sagander, um, you know, he uh, he makes a pledge to deliver the blood that's needed to appease this new river god. Um, and he vows vengeance against Mother Dark and Draconis by proxy. Um, and then we move into let's see, yeah, Krill is getting closer and closer back to the manor, and he he's getting his, this once again build up to the end. He has these wrong feelings and stuff like that. And Cataspella is also returning to Anna's house. Um, and he's a little wounded right now. He's limping away along. One of the things he says is that art failed reality each and every time it failed in the essence of experience. A work could but achieve the merest hints of what was real and immediate, the tactile discomforts, the pangs of disequilibrium. He goes on philosophically like that. But and he says he's always been a liar, that his art lies, and so on and so forth. Oh, woe is me, the plight of the artist, Um, and he says the wedding of Andorist and Anesia, painted with rage. Of course, Anesia is his sister, and that is why he is returning to go to the wedding. Um, and let's see here. All right, the house blades of let's see here, get slaughtered by Bursa and his people. Um, and let's see here. Furthermore, the Tice were killing Tice today. Yes. And somebody is philosophizing here. It's Inesia's father, Lord Jane, who was also the keeper of Krill. Krill was his ward, and he says something interesting here. He says, "Today's righteous cause is religion. The gods are paying attention, after all, wanting you to die in their name. Why? To prove your loyalty, of course. And what of their loyalty, you might wonder? What of their loyalty here? Um, has your God blessed you in your life, answered your every prayer, given proof of its omnipotence?" And I found that line interesting because, uh, from what I can tell throughout this book and the Malazan Book of the Fallen and all the Asmon books and all the whole Malazan package, excuse me, the I never really attributed omnipotence to any of the gods. They might be immortal. They might know a lot, but I never attributed omnipotence to them, or in general to gods in fantasy, because they're all so fallible. They're all more along the lines of Norse gods and Greek gods who are were thought of and created and designed and brought into being to be the to be to have all those human frail uh, faults and stuff like that. So it was interesting that and so omnipotence was never really in my mind as far as fantasy goes. So I'm wondering why he would be saying this and thinking this and expecting this. But either way, that's a bigger topic than just going through this chapter here. Let's see here. Now, today the sack is filled with religion. Tomorrow it will be something else. The joy lies in beating it. Hmm. And so he doesn't like this stuff that's going on, and it's unfortunate to him that this wedding has taken place now. As well, it's unfortunate to all of us. uh, all right. So Krill is talking to him, and they're starting to figure out what's happening here. They're starting to figure out that the ex legionnaires who are trying to manipulate the name of Urisander to go with their rebellion against Mother Dark, using the deniers as an excuse to commit these atrocities and stuff. They are, they're starting to figure it out. Everything's starting to come clear. Everything's starting to come into focus here. The ones on the other side of those section here of these ex legionnaires, they're given all their excuses um, for going against the nobleborn. And of course, throughout the whole book here, we have had that contrast of nobleborn, regular soldier, and so forth. That very stark contrast that these constructed divisions of society. And so we move on to Nezia's. They're at the house. They're getting there. They're We're on the grounds of the great house of Anderist. Anderist isn't there yet. That's very important right now at this point. And Lord Jane, um, he gives this excellent thing about aging because yeah. Let me just read this here. Regret was an empty curse. He had let age take hold of him, as if ennui was an old man's final gift to himself. The blessed embrace of indifference in the guise of wisdom. Weariness awaited every unmindful soul, no matter its age, no matter its station. He knew that centuries of life awaited him, but that was a truth he could not face without blinking, without shying away. The true curse, the one curse that could fill a soul to bursting, was weariness, not of the flesh, although that played its part, but of the spirit. He had come to recognize in himself a kind of hapless impatience, the affliction of a man waiting and wanting to die. That is basically a precursor to the state of the Teist in the Book of the Fallen. That is exactly what they have, is that affliction of the spirit in the Book of the Fallen. It is what Animander is trying so hard to fight against, that he involves the Teist in the wars of the Malazan Empire in the Book of the Fallen. And this guy is already stating that condition to come. And so little nod there to the Teist, the state of the Teist in the Book of the Fallen. I like that. And all right, so then we get to the fighting. The We get to the slaying of Anezdia, the slaying of her father, Lord Jane. Krill comes in like a hero, trying to fight people. He dies. He takes out a few, but he dies, and it's all very tragic. Very Disillusioned. If we remember, if you remember correctly, remember the boy often tell earlier saying there are no more heroes. Yeah, they just died, the last ones. So yeah, Lord Jane slain, and Ezia slain, and Arista's future bride. So he doesn't know yet, but I'm sure that's gonna come up in future chapters here. Um, and then the final, that's all very tragic, and it's heartbreaking. This was a tough chapter to get through. Yeah, a lot of bad stuff happened, and especially the very last scene here, um, when Catasbala comes home after the slaughter, finds his sister's corpse on on the floor or whatever, and he doesn't recognize her because he always saw the truth in people, and that part of that truth was them being alive, and he could see inside and see what people were really like. And with a corpse, he can't recognize that. He can't see that. He can't see the person that he knew his sister to be, and so he sees nothing, and he can't handle that nothingness that he sees there, where before he saw such perfection, and so he can't handle that, and he stabs his own eyes out with paintbrushes of all things, um, and he tore them away. He tore his eyes away so he could no longer see nothing, and darkness often its perfect blessing. That is that is haunting. Uh, that is haunting indeed. Wow. I'm going to leave it there at the end of chapter 14. Whew. Wow. Uh, all right. Hopefully, uh, yeah. There's nothing to say after that. Hopefully, unlike these people, as I said this before in some other reviews, unlike these people, be good to each other.